back to Film on High Reviews. Today we're going to be talking about Joel Coen's 2021 film, The Tragedy of Macbeth, starring Denzel Washington, Frances McDormand, Brendan Gleeson, and Kathryn Hunter. This is an adaptation of the classic Shakespeare play about an ambitious thane who discovers a prophecy that tells him he will one day be king, and so he schemes to take the throne from his King Duncan with the help of his wife, Lady Macbeth, only to be undone by madness and paranoia in the end. So this is a pretty classic play, and it's interesting that we watch this movie together because I'm actually kind of a fan of Macbeth. I've seen a few of the movies, I've read the play in high school, and you're not really a fan. You're not really a big Shakespeare guy. So it's interesting that we both kind of have our perspective on this movie. I thought it was pretty good. What'd you think?
So this movie was quite a sight to see. I'm a big fan of black and white movies, and seeing this one in this day and age was quite a delight. And quite honestly, yeah, I'm not really used to Shakespeare stories or Shakespeare movies type of thing. So seeing this through a fresh lens really showed me how much people see this as, a story that really stands the test of time,
Yeah, the themes kind of still resonate
exactly
until today. That's why Shakespeare's so popular.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're not really a fan, but you still got a pretty good sense of the story. The dialogue wasn't too bad. They kind of cut things down to the absolute bare bones, and it's a pretty lean adaptation. But I thought they did a good job at conveying the story. Like you said, the cinematography and the photography is just beautiful. While I was watching the movie, I was kind of comparing it in my head to two other Macbeth adaptations. There's the 1971 adaptation by Roman Polanski, which is kind of very brutal and dirty and straight to the point. There's a lot of graphic violence and stuff like that. And there's the 2015 adaptation by Justin Kurzel, which is a bit more epic, has a bit more of almost this big epic feel. And this movie was a bit more dreamlike and surreal. You can tell that they shot a lot of it on sets. It has this real kind of unnatural, otherworldly feel, and I like some of the computer effects they use too. There's some small, subtle touches of CGI here and there, like when Lady Macbeth sets the letter on fire and throws it in the air, or at the end when you see all of the crows come up and black out the sunlight. Those were really nice little touches, and it was kind of reminiscent of the old German expressionism of the 1920s, real old school filmmaking with just shadows and light. And yeah, you could tell that it's interesting that Joel Coen made this movie on his own without Ethan Coen. Up until this point, they've always worked together. And this is really sort of different than anything he's done before. They made a movie called The Man Who Wasn't There a couple of years back, which was also black and white, but it didn't have this vibe at all. Yeah, it's interesting that he would choose this, of all things, to make his first solo movie, but it was good.
It's interesting because this is basically the story of, the descent of madness, Because as he's prophesized to be king, he learns that there will be, his friend Banquo will have, a lineage of kings.
Yeah, lineage of kings.
So basically, for him, it's okay, well, I'll be king, but I do not have children of my own, and so learning this, I have to make sure that, I solidify my power.
Yeah, that's kind of where he starts going out of control. He sees that Banquo and his lineage could be a threat. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we should probably talk about the acting. Great performances all around. Denzel Washington, I wasn't so kind of sure going in. It's an unusual choice for the role. And, it's kind of weird at times because a lot of the other actors have, proper Scottish or English accents, and he just uses his kind of normal American accent, so it's jarring at times, but he still did a really good job, especially in the more quiet moments, the monologues and the soliloquies where he's just kind of talking to himself and descending into insanity. He did a really good job with that, very subtle, there are moments where he kind of builds up his intensity, but it's restrained. I was impressed by it.
And there are moments in the movie where, they use the lighting to an effect really to punctuate exactly how a character feels, or what a character is thinking at the moment,
Most of the movies, power just comes from the lighting. It's almost like a stage play. There's even a moment where, they have the spotlight shine down and Banquo walks into it. Again, they were kind of playing off those conventions, and it was good.
Oh, man, this movie had great transitions as well.
Yeah, amazing transitions. Frances McDormand was good too. Really kind of haunting performance as Lady Macbeth.
Oof, yes. the scene where she's sleepwalking and then at one point actually talks to the maid and the doctor, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, when she looks back at them, really creepy moment.
But it's what works to the movie, because with so minimal effects and so, like, all the settings don't feel dry in a sense, but they feel aged. They feel like there's a story there, you know?
A lot of open space, too.
Yeah.
I noticed that. Like, a lot of open space in the rooms. The characters feel like they're being dwarfed. Like, it's almost like this weird, like, huge, almost small claustrophobic effect. It was good. You know, Macbeth feels like kind of this small player dwarfed by this large, interesting visual tricks.
Yeah, and as you watch through the movie, there are some visual cues that give you the idea that his world is getting more narrow and narrower, you know, especially like when he goes.
Yeah, when he's walking down the battlements he's literally just walking down this tiny kind of hallway. Yeah, it shows how his ambitions have kind of boxed him in.
You know.
And also Kathryn Hunter, a veteran stage actress who plays the Weird Sisters, the witches. She was amazing.
Yes.
Like the way she delivered the lines, and she like contorted her body in really kind of disturbing, creepy ways.
Yeah. And this is where the visual effects really come in handy, because there's a scene where there's a lake and she's prophesizing to Macbeth
and Banquo, yeah.
And you see her alone, but on the reflection of the lake, you actually see two more right there. And then at a certain point, it just goes back into three, and then she disappears into the mist. And you're like, oh my god. This is what good effects do, you know? It makes you really think, like, this could be real.
Yeah.
You know?
And she's also represented kind of by the ravens that are constantly flying around.
Yeah.
At one point, you even see her disappear into the mist, and then the ravens fly out, which is a shocking transition.
You know.
But the most interesting character in the movie is probably Ross, played by Alex Hassel.
Yes.
I thought he did a great job, this actor. Like, he had, like, really open stare. Like, he barely blinked throughout the whole movie. He looked kind of insane. It was great, and he's wearing almost, like, weird, like, monk attire.
Mm-hmm. Like, his character, he was so shifty, and there's things that he does that made me feel like, my god, this is the one character that I don't know if I should praise him or hate him. I don't know if he knows something that he shouldn't, or that he's just doing this on a whim.
Yeah, he's the one character that they definitely played around with the most, because, you know, like, within Shakespeare's text, like, you know, we all know Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, we all know what their stories are going to be, and it's a pretty kind of fixed journey. So you have a character like Ross who's a bit more flexible. You can do more with him, and in this movie, it's interesting because Ross he's the cousin of Macduff, who's one of Macbeth's enemies. Like, Macbeth at one point slaughters Macduff's whole family, and that, of course, kind of leads to part of the prophecy, because Macduff is the only man that can actually kill Macbeth, so he's given the proper motivation, if you will, to really go up against Macbeth.
Yeah.
And, yeah, he's the cousin of Macduff, but he also seems to be working for Macbeth at several points in the film. Like, he conspires with Macbeth as the third murderer to kill Banquo, and he's given the chance to kill Banquo's son Fleance and just wipe out the line right there, and we're not sure exactly what happens, but at the end of the film, it's revealed that he allowed Fleance to live, and he's probably planning to put him on the throne. So, yeah, you're really wondering what his motivations are, and probably the most shocking moment in the movie, and maybe the biggest deviation from the play, there's a strong implication that Ross may actually have killed Lady Macbeth.
Yes.
Because, you know, like, historically in the play and most adaptations, Lady Macbeth kills herself. She kind of succumbs to the madness and the guilt of killing Duncan, and she takes her own life. But in this version, we see Lady Macbeth standing at the top of a stairwell as everyone's kind of fleeing and the whole castle's descending into madness, and Ross is very slowly walking up the stairs towards her, and then we cut to the next scene, and she's lying dead at the bottom of the stairs, and, you know, we get the famous tomorrow monologue from Macbeth, which, you know, Denzel did a pretty good job with. I like the way he delivered it. So there's a pretty disturbing implication there that he may have actually murdered Lady Macbeth.
Yeah.
Possibly because, you know, at this point he's just trying to kill everyone and just cut off all ties to himself, you know?
Yeah. And it's set up beautifully because of what happens with Macduff's family, you know? There's a point when, as you said, he's watching through the window and he sees people coming, and Macduff's wife and kid are there talking about, what is a traitor and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he visits them, and he sees the people that Macbeth sent, and he has the opportunity to warn them, but he doesn't. He leaves and allows them to be slaughtered, and then he goes to see Macduff, and interestingly enough, at first, he tells Macduff that his family's okay, but then he reverses himself and he says, no, your family was actually murdered. Yeah, so it was kind of, right there, he's kind of pushing Macduff into this place where, yeah, no, you have to go against this guy. Like, so it makes you wonder, what are his motivations politically? Because, when Macbeth is killed at the end, Macduff, they storm the castle, the prophecies all come true. Birnam Wood comes to Dunsinane, they chop all the trees down and use it as cover, and Macduff, the man, not of woman born, fights Macbeth and kills him, decapitates him. And so when that happens, Malcolm, the son of Duncan, he's the one who's given the throne. But then at the end, you see, like I mentioned before, you see Ross going away with Fleance. So you wonder, like, is he planning something, some kind of insurrection? Is he going to overthrow Malcolm?
Not exactly.
Yeah, and it's not the first adaptation it did that. Like, the Polanski adaptation also played with that a bit, having Ross be involved and kind of a schemer, but this version took it even a step further, I found, with, again, the implication of potentially killing Lady Macbeth.
The way this movie set this up, at the end, it almost feels like there could be a potential sequel to see maybe Fleance do something, but...
I don't think you could get away with that, though.
Yeah, but there's one thing that was kind of weird, because the old man that Ross talks to throughout the movie is the one who is guarding Fleance. And
yeah, like Ross is talking to this old man, and he brings Fleance to the old man to keep him safe, and yeah, the old man is played by the same actress who played the witches. Mm-hmm. So there might be like some symbolism there, like this old man kind of also helping the prophecy along, maybe knowingly, maybe unknowingly. And again, it poses like the greater question of what's Ross's allegiance. Is he tied into this prophecy as well?
Yeah.
Has he spoken to the witches?
I think, like, with all the imagery in this movie that they have, one thing that I started to look at is, since he kind of looks like a holy monk, it could be that maybe he knows about the prophecy, or knows even more so than anybody else, and so that he has a different mission.
Yeah, maybe he's some, like, old-time pagan trying to undermine the Christians.
But overall, this movie, I give this a rating of 4 out of 5.
Yeah, 4 out of 5 for me as well. Pretty near perfect adaptation. It's not going to be for everyone. Like, some people are not into Shakespeare. Some people don't like stuff that's more slow and atmospheric. And again, this is a different kind of adaptation. It's not the most action heavy. Like, the Polanski version and the Kurzel version had more action. Like, at the end, you have like epic battles between Macbeth and Macduff. This version was more subtle, more quiet, but I enjoyed that. I thought it was a good way to treat the material.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So yeah, if you're a Shakespeare fan, a Denzel Washington fan, or you just like something kind of, weird and experimental, then this movie might be for you.
Exactly. See you guys later.